Solution Zone and get the answers you need. Thursdays at 3 o'clock Eastern. The Progressive Radio Network is moving forward, and we hope you're coming with us.
You're listening to the Progressive Radio Network, your number one source for progressive commentary.
Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, here on Progressive Radio Network. We are here every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not that there's much standard about what goes on here at PRN or on A Better World for that matter, but nonetheless, in order to accord with a standard way of keeping time and so people can tune in on time, we make that announcement. And you all know that if you're not part of A Better World community, please come to www.abetterworld.net and become part of it, get the newsletter, sign up for our various activities, and all our ways to make a difference in this world in the way we refer frequently to sacred stewardship, being part of the solution in a sacred and respectful way as we walk on this planet and seek to make the difference we most can in being aligned with nature and with each other in sacred human community. What's best but to celebrate life and to celebrate love together in harmony, in unison, the way the neuroscientists show we're really designed for, instead of the warfare and violence that people have as their default position when they get scared to simply open up. And talking about opening up, that is going to be very much in many ways the theme of today's show, as I have on the line today Gary Zukav, a very popular, world-renowned, and loved human being, writer, acclaimed, who has been on the Oprah Winfrey Show more times than anyone could shake a stick at, well-loved, and now he's on the Mitchell Rabin Show. What can I tell you? I'm sometimes referred to as the white male Jewish Oprah, which is always very funny, and a great compliment at that, by the way. Gary is the author of 4 consecutive New York Times Bestsellers, and in 1979 he really premiered his writing work with the Dancing Woolly Masters, an overview of the new physics, and plumbed the depths of quantum physics and relativity. He won the American Book Award for Science for that, as well as The Seed of the Soul, which really just opened up the doors wide for his exploration of the relationship of a personal relationship to the soul and a sense of fulfillment, and understanding the distinctions between internal and external power, something that we who have been involved in the martial arts for a long time have understood, as well as deep spiritual traditions, the wisdom teachings of East and West, but has been lost more or less in the mainstream culture, which is one of the reasons we want Gary on the show today to talk about these distinctions, as well as bringing this sense of wisdom that he has embodied for so long and is so well loved for into the domain of spiritual partnership, which is the name of his latest book, as well as his latest online class is really exploring this area of spiritual partnership and the journey to authentic power. So we're going to be spending today's show speaking with Gary Zukav about these subjects that are really very dear to our hearts, and it's this kind of inner transformation that really ultimately leads to the transformation of our society. If we are not at peace, my friends, the world ain't going to be at peace, because the world is us. No amount of treaties, no number of legislative acts will actually legislate peace. Only our will to live a peaceful life, and that comes from our inner state, will bring about that outer condition. So, on that note, I'd like to introduce you all to Gary. Are you on the line?
Yes. Hello, Mitchell.
Hello, Gary. Such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Indeed, it's good to be here, Mitchell. I'm delighted.
I'm so glad. And I'm not only pleasured, but also honored, because you're very much in demand these days. It took us months to actually get you on the show. And I really appreciate your taking the time to speak with us on A Better World.
Well, a better world is important to me, and in fact, my life is devoted to it, as yours is also. So,
yes,
talk about the ways that we can create that concretely.
Exactly, and that's very much what our discussion today will do. In the book here, you know what? I'm thinking, why don't we start at the beginning with a little bit of a summary of the end. In this book, of course, you touch upon all of the themes that you have been discussing for so many years so richly, Gary. But I would like for those of our audience who may be new to you or haven't read you and have just seen you on television, what is the driving theme that you would like people to really digest?
Oh, I'd love to talk about that. Is the book you're talking about spiritual partnership?
Yes, it is.
Well, first of all, I want to suggest to everyone that's listening that you not take anything that I say as true, because I say it, or that anything anyone says on radio or TV or in a book as true, but that you assess it yourself. You do an interior assessment. You see how it feels to you, and if you resonate with it, then try it. Experiment with it.
Yes, be a multisensory scientist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So the idea is this, that an unprecedented, huge, unmeasurable transformation in consciousness is now underway. And it's underway species-wide.
Yes.
It's nothing like it has ever occurred before. And the transformation specifically is this. It's the expansion of our awareness beyond the limitations of the five senses. So we still see and touch and taste and hear and smell. We still have zip codes. We use our minds and our intellects. But we are developing awareness that goes beyond that, so that all of our experiences become meaningful in ways. They all become opportunities to grow spiritually. And with this new consciousness comes a new understanding of power. And that is power as the alignment of your personality with your soul, which means alignment with harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And this is very different from the old kind of power, which is the ability to manipulate and control.
Yeah, but let me bring this up. This understanding that you're outlining of the distinction between these two forms of power, first of all, it's the latter, the external form, Gary, that has very much rules our lives in general. You know, what foods are actually legal, which are not, which natural substances like plants are legal or not, what side of the road we drive on, you name it. Everything we do is really defined in so many ways by the external power. The internal power was understood for thousands of years by the spiritual masters. How is it different today than any other time, do you think, in history?
Well, let's look at some of the things you've said, because when I say external power, I'm not only talking about the force of a law or a bullet. I'm talking about a way of being in the world. A way of being in the world. At the core of our experience is a common, painful experience of powerlessness. That's the experience of wanting to belong and not feeling like you belong, or wanting to love and not feeling like you're lovable or capable of loving.
Yes.
It's the experience of feeling that you're defective somehow, intrinsically defective.
Yeah, something's wrong by definition.
By feeling, by experience, you
Yes.
feel as though if people could see the way you really are inside, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with you.
Right.
These are all experiences of powerlessness.
Yes.
Now, in the past, we have tried to mask that pain of powerlessness, and it's excruciating. It's very excruciating. And we've tried to do that by reaching out to change things around us. So if you make more money, you seem to have more worth. You can manipulate and control more. If you have a strong body or a voluptuous body, if you have a good stock portfolio, if you have a wit you can use, all of these things are ways of maneuvering in the world, of manipulating people and things so that you'll feel better and safer about yourself.
Yes.
And this
The development of the persona, in short.
Well, it's deeper than that. Every persona, let's use the word personality. A personality. So a personality has different parts, and some parts originate in fear. These are the parts that are angry, jealous, resentful, the parts that are obsessive and compulsive and addictive, and they all hurt when you experience them.
Yes.
And they all create destructive consequences when you act on them. Now, the parts that originate in love are parts, for example, that are grateful, that are content, that are appreciative, patient, caring. And when you experience these, they feel good. And when you act on them, they create constructive, healthy consequences.
Yes.
So as we become multisensory, and I'm using that term to describe the transformation that's taking place in our species now, as our awareness expands, as we become multisensory, we have another sensory system, not just the one that detects physical reality with the five senses. We have another one that detects intelligence and wisdom and compassion that are real, but not physical.
For instance, intuition, our ability to sense in an intuitive, prescient way, perhaps.
Very much intuition is part of multisensory perception. There's more to it. There's the sense that you are more than you thought you were.
Yes, indeed.
That you're more than a mind and a body. You're more than muscles and molecules. It's the sense that your life is meaningful, that it's not random.
Yes.
It's the sense that you have gifts to give, and you want to know what they are, and you long to give them. These are all multisensory experiences, and they're becoming common, and they're appearing in millions of people. And I want to suggest that within just a few generations, everyone's going to be multisensory.
Yes.
But Mitchell, not everyone will be authentically powerful. It's multisensory perception is something that's happening. It's a gift that's given to us. But authentic power, real power, the alignment of your personality with your soul, that has to be created.
Now you're talking, Gary. Now you're talking my language. You have a way of describing this in the book Spiritual Partnership, The Journey to Authentic Power, as a distinction between process A and process B. Not the most poetic description, by the way, for a man who's very poetic. But what is it? Could you outline the difference between these two for our audience? Because I think it's hitting the point here.
Oh, very good. And I agree with you. I wrote that introduction at the request of my editor, and I needed to write it quickly. But instead of saying, I said process A is happening. It's happening to everyone.
Yes.
And in a few generations, everyone will have experienced process A. That's multisensory perception.
Sure.
But process B creating authentic power, that's up to you.
Yes.
And creating it in my life is up to me. So I could have
It's
said,
a conscious decision to go forward, a commitment to that
it certainly
unfolding.
It certainly is. And let me give you an example
Please.
of what that commitment means. When you're angry or you're enraged, and in that moment you know and you feel that you have a right to be enraged, that you are correct, the other person is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, if you have the courage and the commitment to stop and not act on those thoughts and those emotions which are painful, and instead feel those emotions, not try to repress them, but feel them, and be aware of the thoughts that you're thinking, and instead of acting on that, either not acting, or if you do act, acting from the healthiest part of your personality that you can access in that moment. That is the creation of authentic power in that. And the more you challenge the frightened parts of your personality, or the destructive parts, however you call them, the more they begin to lose their power over you. They still come. You still get into power struggles. You still get jealous or angry or resentful or whatever it is that you're familiar with in your life, and there's usually quite a few of these things.
Exactly. We're only human, you know. You're reminding me very funnily, if you don't mind my saying, Gary, of Diane Ross and the Supremes, who said, "Stop in the name of love." You know, at that moment when you're at the peak of your anger, you can get a handle on the anger. You don't stop the feelings, but you change the action and your relationship to the anger.
That's exactly the way I see it, and I feel that's correct. In other words, when you act without thinking, when you react, you act again as you have in the past.
Exactly.
But
so who knew that the Supremes had it spiritually so together?
Well, I think it's wonderful that you pointed this out. Because it's not only in the name of love that you stop. You stop in the name of all that you can be.
Yes.
You stop in the name of all that you were born to give. You were not born to give more anger to this world. You were not born to give more jealousy or resentment or feelings of superiority or inferiority. And yet not to give them requires a conscious choice. That is the moment of spiritual growth.
Exactly.
And that is the creation of authentic power. If you don't create it, you'll continue to react as you always have.
Yes.
Just getting older isn't going to help you. There's a lot of people that die enraged.
Yes.
And they're 70 or 80 or 90.
And they die also. I use this idea a lot, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, Gary. An idea of psycho-emotional maturity. You know, our bodies age, but that does not necessarily mean we become inherently wise. But if we emotionally mature and overcome what is oftentimes an infantile arrest, I mean, this is the stuff of psychotherapy, if you don't mind my saying, if we overcome the arrest and the freezing that happens emotionally early in our childhood, if we ripen in the ways that you're describing, you're outlining virtually a technique to let go and become authentic, we can really become wise as we age. So many people's bodies age, but it doesn't bring their heart and soul with them.
Yes, you can become wise when you're young. You can become wise at any age.
Good point.
And it's a process. It's not an event. And this process is creating authentic power. And the picture that I'm painting is not one of an arrest in childhood because of an environmental or a familial trauma.
Yes.
It is the shift in our evolution. The entire human species is evolving differently now.
Yes.
In the past, when we were only 5 sensory, we evolved by surviving. And we survived by pursuing external power, the ability to manipulate and to control. So this is a much older way of being in the world than you, your family, or probably as far back as you can trace your lineage.
Yes.
It is the way that our species has been in the world, and now we are changing. We are evolving. Our evolutionary path requires more than surviving. It requires spiritual growth.
Yes.
And our means of growing spiritually now is the creation of authentic power, the alignment of your personality with your soul, and the tools are emotional awareness and responsible choice.
Yes.
And consulting your intuition. The tools of creating authentic power is what Linda, my spiritual partner, and I teach. It's what I love to share. And these are the things that I ask people, if they're interested, if they're open, to try.
Yes.
Try on for size. You'll be surprised at a couple of things. Number one, how painful it is to become emotionally aware.
Yes.
Because as you become emotionally aware, you become aware of everything that you're experiencing, and you will discover that there's a lot of fear in your experience, and that shows up as pain.
Yes.
And until you are aware of that, you don't know what it is that you need to challenge. You might think, well, I need to challenge my need for sex, or my need to smoke, or my need to overeat. But beneath that, beneath every addiction and every compulsion and every obsession, is the pain of powerlessness. And creating external power, pursuing that isn't going to help it anymore. In fact, that's counterproductive now.
Yes.
That leads only to violence and destruction. It's only through creating authentic power now that your fulfillment is within your reach, that our evolution becomes possible.
That's very beautifully put. And you're really talking about something that is highly unpopular in mainstream society, especially the world of celebrity society. Like, we just had the Academy Awards last night, and it's all peaches and cream everywhere and diamonds dazzling everyone. But the reality is, underneath all of this is a severe level of sadness and pain, as you're beautifully pointing out, Gary. And all we have to do is look around and see the number of homeless on our own streets in the richest country in the world, the number of children going to bed hungry in our wealthy country, supposedly the wealthiest of all. What does it mean? And we all develop a sense of compassion and become hypersensitive if we really pay attention to these external realities, let alone the other inner psychological realities you're referring to. Wherever we turn, there's pain in reality.
Yes, there is. You know, I like to go to the heart of the matter. If I had several lifetimes to live simultaneously,
yes,
I would give one to trying to address the issue of the exploitation of Mother Earth. I would give another to the exploitation of women. I would give another to the exploitation of immigrant farm workers. There's so many things I would love to do.
God, yes.
But I have found that the heart of all of this, the cause of all of this, is consciousness. And so I can address them all by going to the root. I can address consciousness. I can change consciousness. But I can't change it in you, and I can't change it in anyone who's listening to our program. I can change it in me. That's where I have leverage. And as we become multisensory, we begin to see that changing yourself has impact, influence, results, effects that go far beyond what your five senses can detect. And so as you change yourself, you change the world in new ways. For example, suppose you see, and by the way, there are people at the Academy Awards who are so generous and so kind and so caring. For example, you saw perhaps Oprah Winfrey.
I did, and she's a beautiful example of what you're referring to, yes.
She is.
Yeah.
And if you'll notice that the very best, the best of the best cinema has to do with consciousness transformation.
Yes, indeed.
With someone who opens to a newer and wider and more expanded and more balanced and harmonious and generous way of being in the world.
Really
this
true.
This is the essence of good cinema.
Exactly.
It's the essence of good drama. So I want to go back to what you were saying about the homeless that we have.
Yes, please.
About bankers who are exploiting everything they can exploit.
Yes, anything that moves.
Now the point is, if you look at them as villains, if you look at homeless people as victims, you miss the point. You miss the point. If you have anything in you that makes a villain of someone else, you make a victim of yourself. And everything that you do as a result contributes not anything new to the world, but more of the same.
Yes.
More victim energy, more villain energy. But if you can look at your life and the world around you as something to learn from, to learn about yourself from, when you see someone who's homeless, do you pity them? Or do you see them as a powerful and compassionate, creative and loving spirit who is living at a great distance from that potential? Then you will be able, every gift you give, if you give that person $5, it won't be to make yourself feel better or superior or a philanthropist. It will be as a soul-to-soul connection.
Yes.
If you endeavor to stop the exploitation of the earth and others, you won't do it as a crusade against villains, but as something that you want to contribute to the world.
Yes.
You will see those people that you previously saw as villains, such as bankers, also as loving and compassionate, powerful and creative spirits that are living at a great distance from that potential.
I hear you, and I think it's very well put. If you see the world as villains, in fact, you are being villainous. And if you see the world as victims, you are being victimized by your own thoughts. I mean, the great Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching wrote, basically, trust the untrustworthy, and by so doing, you make them trustworthy.
Yes, I think that's very noble and has wisdom in it. At the same time, look at yourself. When you take an action, what is your motive? Intention is everything. If you are acting in the world to gain recognition or to get a better self-image of yourself, that's the pursuit of external power. If you are acting in the world to create harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life,
yes,
no matter what you are feeling, even if you don't feel like doing that because a frightened part of your personality may be active in the moment, that is the creation of authentic power.
Indeed.
So learning yourself. It's not just trusting somebody who's untrustworthy. Yes, there is power in that, but pay attention to your own intention as you do that. Is it to empower someone else, or is it a romanticized image of what you think is the right and noble thing to do?
Exactly. In other words, there are many layers of our experience, Gary. For instance, on one hand, it's our action, which has its own language and says its own statement, if you will. But the subtler levels are what's going on internally in terms of our intention. And for greatest consciousness, as I believe you're implying here, one really wants to become conscious of the ebb and flow of one's own thoughts, tendencies toward creation or destruction, and how to use our intention coming from a deeper part of ourselves that you beautifully, of course, reference as soul. And when we're in that level of alignment, I guess I would put it this way, magic happens. Let's let everybody know that you are listening to A Better World with Mitchell J. Rabin here on Progressive Radio Network. Very glad you're joining us again today. Please join us at our website at www.abetterworld.net and become part of our newsletter and our A Better World community. We love having you. And we are spending this whole program with Gary Zukav, the author of many books. It has been translated, many of his books, into 24 languages, and millions upon millions of people have seen and heard Gary on Oprah Winfrey, and now on the Mitchell Rabin Show on A Better World here at PRN. He is the author, most lately, of Spiritual Partnership, The Journey to Authentic Power, and we are spending this show talking about the subtle nature of authentic power, distinct from the usual interpretation we have of power, which tends to be manipulative. It is external. It's so one person can get up on another. It's ego-based, distinct from, you could say, soul-based, an authentic, deep place inside of us that is really the home of authentic beingness and power. So, Gary, it's just a pleasure again to have you on the show today to discuss these things that are so dear to our hearts.
Thank you, Mitchell. I appreciate that. And I believe we can make it even more simple. It's not that the pursuit of external power tends to be manipulative. It is manipulation and control. The pursuit of manipulation, of the ability to manipulate and control, is external power, and that is now counterproductive to our evolution.
Yes.
It's destructive. It produces pain and destruction. And this comes from fear. This comes from fear. So
Yes.
if we want to live a different life, it's necessary to find within ourselves, I within me and you within you, the difference between love and fear, and choose love, no matter what is going on inside of you or what is going on outside of you.
Yes.
That is the creation of authentic power.
God, yes, that's beautiful. You have been a pioneer, Gary, in the bringing forth of the basic tenets of quantum physics and into the world, into society, if you will. And you have a chapter in this book, Spiritual Partnership, The Journey to Authentic Power, one on the butterfly effect, which of course we know is one of those brilliant tenets that quantum physics offers. Could you talk about how that principle interacts with our world and how it contributes to your idea of authentic power?
Yes, a couple of things. I want to talk about how you interact. By you, I'm talking about everyone who's listening.
Yes.
World. How you interact with the world and what that has to do with your creation of authentic power or not. And what I am suggesting is that your intention is what is important. It's not that your actions are big and your intention is subtle. It's really the other way around. Your intention is big. Your intention creates your consequences. The action that you do is almost beside the point. It is your intention.
Interesting.
For example, let me give you a common one. Suppose that you write a check to a nonprofit. And you write a big check, a really big one. Well, that's relative, isn't it? For some people, a really big one is $25. For other people, it's $2,500. For other people, it's $25,000. And for others, it's more than that. But it's not the size of the check, and it's not your writing of it that creates consequences for you, that creates karma. Put it that way. It is your intention. If your intention is to show that you're a generous person, that's not the creation of authentic power. That's the pursuit of external power. It's the attempt to manipulate and to control using this check and your writing of it. If your intention is to get a tax break, that's not the creation of authentic power either. That is the intention to manipulate and to control circumstances to your benefit so you'll feel better and safer. If your intention, for example, in writing this check is to support the people or the cause that this nonprofit is supporting, because you don't have time to support it yourself, you don't have time to go to Africa or an undeveloped part of the world and bring chickens or water or medical assistance. But you know that this organization is doing it, and you love the idea of supporting these people, and you love these people, and you say, here is my check. Here is my check. Do with it all that you can. I am with you.
Yes.
My heart is with you, and I am with especially the people that you are helping. That is an intention to create harmony. That is an intention to share. That is an intention to cooperate. That is an intention to contribute instead of to exploit.
Sure.
And when you create authentic power, you create a life of meaning and purpose and joy and fulfillment beyond that which you can even touch creating with fear.
Yes, I understand. In the Jewish tradition, we tend to be measured by our actions. And it's really the way I put it before, Gary, the subtler realms that begin to explore our mental state in doing those actions. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying. But I also think that this idea is also very interesting. For instance, let me take the same example. That person who donates $25,000 to that organization that is helping to provide clean water in an undeveloped village in Africa, plus chickens, does so with the idea that this is going to be good on his record in some kind of external credentialed way. And we may look at that and say, well, that's one way of doing it. Nonetheless, that $25,000 that he gave, no matter what his intention, is still going to be having a significant positive consequence in the world through the use of that money. It may not be to his own personal highest good, but it will still be doing a lot of good, in a sense, in his name.
If you look at it, to me, that's taking your eye off the ball. I agree with everything that you say, and it's an argument that I've heard before.
Surely.
And not only that, I agree that food is food and it helps the hungry person.
Yes.
But we are talking now about an entire species whose evolution requires spiritual growth.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to grow spiritually, then that's an if.
That's a horse of another color.
It is indeed.
As we say in The Wizard of Oz, yes.
That is a horse of another color. And if you want to create authentic power in your life, then it won't be enough for you anymore to say, well, look, I can be angry, I can be jealous, I can be a sexual addict, I can not stop drinking wine. But keep in mind that last year I gave $2.5 million to build a convention center at a university.
Right.
All right, no one's not keeping that in mind, but you've missed the point.
That's right.
You've missed the point.
You're talking about a whole being alignment where mind, body, as the Buddhists say, body, speech, and mind are one. Or in the Gurdjieff tradition, speak of three centers, the mind, the heart, and the body, all aligned under one roof, so to speak. That's a higher level spiritual development, which I very much appreciate you're making the point of bringing all of us on for this ride into the future of our evolution.
Yes, you alone can bring yourself on for the ride, and you do with every choice. What ride are you going to take? Is it a ride into anger, into jealousy?
Yes, indeed.
To sexual addiction? Can you stop watching pornography? Can you stop shopping? Can you stop eating? Can you stop needing admiration or money?
Right.
If not...
In other words, it's a call to consciousness, man. That's what I hear you saying very powerfully.
Oh, that's beautifully put. Your life is a call to consciousness.
Yes.
Every experience in it offers you an opportunity to grow spiritually. You're not judged if you don't. You simply continue to create what you've created in the past.
Yes, exactly.
This is the way the Earth School works. And as we become multisensory, we start to see it. We start to become aware of it. That's multisensory perception. It's the opportunity to create authentic power. It's the opportunity to leave the prison of your anger and your fear and your jealousy and your resentment. It is the opportunity,
beautiful.
moment by moment.
Now, what do you think it is, Gary, about the nature of evolution, which is a way of saying God itself calling us forward into our own personal flourishing and flowering? What is it about the nature of evolution and the calling of the soul that is urging us toward that outcome?
It is love. It is compassion and wisdom beyond what we can share with one another. It is the essence of who we are. Mm-hmm. But it is not urging us. It is inviting us. Mm-hmm. It is beckoning to us. Mm-hmm. And it is beckoning to us in ways that sometimes are quite surprising. It is beckoning to us in the form of a bully in our face. It is beckoning us in the form of a selfish financier. It is beckoning us in the form of a homeless person who won't leave us alone. It is beckoning to us in so many ways.
Yes.
It is beckoning to us at each moment. That is the beauty and the power of the Earth School.
Yes.
And as you begin to create authentic power, you transform your life into an ongoing meditation.
Yes. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. I'd like to circle back to the question I asked about the interface of daily living with some of the underlying favorite notions of yours of quantum physics. I would be remiss if I was not asking you this question, having written extensively as you have from the Dancing Wooly Masters forward. What is that which we can best understand and integrate into our daily lives from the riches, the treasure trove of quantum physics? And I made reference to the chapter you have titled The Butterfly Effect.
Well, it's a matter of which level of discourse we want to take. For example, you mentioned a beautiful Jewish perspective.
Yes.
And now you're mentioning a powerful perspective of quantum physics,
yes,
which I happen to love.
Yes.
And the perspective I find most rewarding for me now is, how am I using my life? Mm-hmm. What are my intentions? One of the things we can say from quantum physics is this. Quantum physics predicts probabilities of experiments that are prepared in a certain way and measured in a certain way. And it predicts them very accurately. And the more we do the experiment, the more accurate the predictions are proven to be. Mm-hmm. Now, when you do an experiment, here's the interesting thing. You might set the experiment up so that there's 3 different possibilities. But when you measure the experiment, only one of them is going to happen. What happened to the other 2 possibilities? Well, they disappeared. So that's the way your life is. At each moment, you have different possibilities. You can act in anger when you're feeling anger. Or you can decide just to keep quiet, even if it means clenching your fist in your jaws, so that you're not speaking in anger. Or you can decide you're going to take another step and actually listen to the person who's making you angry, or even have compassion for that person. So there's 4 different doorways. Pardon me.
Sure.
Once you walk through one of those doorways, the others close. And before you are more doorways. This is the nature of your life, and you can experiment with it, you can see it yourself. Which doorway will you go through? Whatever doorway you go through, whichever intention you choose, that will bring a reality into being. That will create your karma. So, after a while, you begin to see the Earth School this way, as a continual offering of opportunities to grow spiritually, to move into harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life, to move beyond the parts of your personality that judge and condemn and blame and criticize, that are either a victim or a villain. And after a while, you will begin to see yourself as a sailor, and you have discovered that no wind can blow that does not fill your sails.
Wow. Yes. Yes, I hear you. I want to take another real-world situation I'm thinking of as I'm listening to you, because there is this exquisite interface, as you've reminded us so well in so much of your writing, between quantum physics and our real lives. And you just helped to outline one in a rather kind of in a theoretical way. But I want to come into the concrete right now for a moment. It was recently discovered that a few judges in Pennsylvania, and I know you deal a lot with the 9/11 reality, you deal a lot with the real world in your book, which I wholly appreciate, by the way, because there are so many people who, when they start to speak about our spiritual awareness, lose track that we actually have clay feet right here on earth, and this is the place to apply the spiritual awareness. And you don't. You remember that, and I'm commending you and really appreciate that you do that. And I want to now bring us around to this particular, just because it occurred to me for whatever reason. There was a judge, Gary, in Pennsylvania who was recently arrested and put into jail for taking bribes from private juvenile delinquent homes. They were run privately. They weren't run by the state. And he was being paid for every single juvenile that he put into their home. And that home was being paid in turn by the state for the number of the size of their population. So there were teenagers, for instance, that raised their voice to their parents, as so many adolescents do at a certain point in their development, and it's part of their creating boundaries and getting a sense of themselves, and every parent knows it and expects it, actually. Well, this judge put and actually helped to really injure many children, and it led even to at least one suicide among a teenager who was thrown into a juvenile home for doing really nothing.
Yeah, I read that article.
You read that. It was just...
I'm familiar with it.
You're familiar. Fabulous. I'm asking you, I know that when I heard that story, my heart shattered. It shattered on behalf of the children that were going through this inadvertently, and it shattered for the sake of that judge who was so off base in his own heart center that he would engage in a process so belligerent, in a sense, so mindless, so thoughtless as he did. From your point of view of spiritual partnership, what would you say about that incident?
From my point of view, I would say that it's not our place to judge anyone or anything, because we don't know enough to judge. We don't know what's coming to completion in a moment.
Yes, true.
It is appropriate to protect someone who's being harmed. It's appropriate to intervene, but it's not appropriate to judge. Because when you judge, you create negative karma for yourself. You create painful consequences.
Yes.
So if you can move into this particular situation, for example, with compassion, and to see what can be done, without blaming, without becoming enraged or righteous, then you contribute something beautiful to the world. Then you are creating authentic power. And that is the purpose of our being on this earth. It doesn't mean that you don't help those who need help. It doesn't mean that you don't protect those who are in need of protection. It doesn't mean that you don't nurture the children or the old or the infirm. It means that you know your intention for doing it. It knows that your intention is that of your soul.
Yes.
Knows that your intention is creating a different world, not more of the same world.
Yes.
That's the creation of authentic power.
Yes.
I want to say this. I appreciate your bringing up that it is practice that makes the difference. It is actually doing it. Now, Linda and I have been giving events for 15 or 20 years. We have written books, lots of books, and I feel that they're all valuable, including Spiritual Partnership, the one we've been talking about.
Indeed.
We've decided now that we are going to use our time in the Earth School as well as we can, not only to give some events, which we'll still do, but to reach as many people as we can around the world using digital tools and the Internet, so that we can support people in New Zealand and Australia and South Africa and Europe and India and, in fact, in New York.
Yes.
We don't live in New York. And so we have built a website, and we have put into it as much in the way of supportive tools and vehicles and instruments as we can, and we're still building it. It's got interviews, videos. It's got, the Spiritual Partnership Guidelines. This website is named after my book, the one that you mentioned, The Seat of the Soul, S-E-A-T, like what you sit on, of the S-O-U-L. If you go there, you can download the Spiritual Partnership Guidelines. These are the same guidelines that we really talk about a lot in the book, Spiritual Partnership. You can download them, and I suggest that you download them and print them out, put them on your fridge, put them in your billfold.
Under your pillow.
Yes, and where you can read them. and you'll see that to create authentic power, or spiritual partnerships, which is it's the same thing, because a spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of creating authentic power. This requires commitment. It requires courage. It requires compassion. It requires conscious communications and actions. And these are all choices. So we've been touching on many of these things: awareness of your intention, awareness of your emotions, awareness, consulting intuition. So all of these things you can learn to practice by going to seatofthesoul.com. Now there's something else that we've just developed, and we've never done this before. We've developed an online course because we don't have the energy anymore to travel as we once did. So we have created a 7-chapter online course with videos of us, not just talking heads, beautiful videos,
yes,
with a lot of thought into them.
Beautiful.
With interactive questions, with meditations, with animation, with a soul log that you answer these interactive questions, and then you can look back later and see if your answers to these questions change over time and compare that.
Yes.
It's got an online community, which I love.
Totally.
An online spiritual partnership community.
Beautiful.
So we have just released this. We've been developing it for 2 years. And it's on our website also.
And that website is www.seatofthesoul.com.
Seat, S-E-A-T, like what you sit on, of the S-O-U-L.com.
Right.
And you'll see this course on there. And it's one of the things that we couldn't put on for free because it cost us a lot to develop it.
Surely.
But I do want to say that I appreciate A Better World. Just the name of your program reminds me of, in the most practical, grounded way, what I want to help create.
God bless.
Not just by my actions and contributions, but by the intentions behind them.
Surely. Surely.
Pardon me.
I appreciate that,
And
Gary.
this course will help the people who take it to put this into practice. And for those who are listening to me, when you go to seatofthesoul.com, you'll see the course. And when you do, if you click Learn More or whatever the green button says, and you decide to enroll in it, then what I would like you to do is this. There's a place where you can enter a coupon code, and that will significantly reduce the price of the course. I don't want to talk more than this because I want to honor public radio, but at the same time, I want to honor you too. And your coupon code is this: Better World. One word, Better World. Enter that and watch what happens. I think
Wonderful.
You'll be delighted.
That music to my ears, Gary. Music to my ears. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show and for all of your many years of dedicated, committed work to creating a better world in the ways that you have. Really want to say thank you.
It's a delight to meet you, Mitchell, and I so appreciate your show, and I appreciate your contributions.
Thank you so much, Gary, and we'll talk again and have you on again another time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Good. God bless. Thank you again. Wow. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We got a real talking to from a man who's been committed to the expression of consciousness on this planet for a long time in many corners of the world. And it's really a pleasure and an honor to have Gary Zukav joining us today on A Better World, talking about his latest book, Spiritual Partnership, The Journey to Authentic Power, and his work, seedofthesoul.com, which sounds like, he talked to me a little bit about it before the show, a really in-depth online class. And he was generous enough to offer those listeners here a coupon for saving you some money at this point in time, much needed money, no doubt, by just using the coupon code Better World. So thanks so much for joining us today. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. You know that that's my life and what I'm committed to wholeheartedly. And we discuss various matters from the environment to the psyche and back again, from politics to economics to understanding spiritual traditions, socio-cultural patterns, and on and on and on, learning from history. And God knows we better learn fast, because we are in for some ride with the glaciers melting as fast as they are, water levels rising. This, my friends, is no longer time for messing around. But as Gary and I said on this show, this is a time for a call to consciousness. Means get up off your seat and really pay attention and take hands with each other and do something to create a better world quickly. Engage in a lifestyle that will support life instead of destroy it. So please join us again. And next Wednesday nights, we have a new show at 6 o'clock on Blog Talk Radio. Go to our website to learn about it. We'll be speaking with Michael Pergola, formerly of the Alliance, the seminary, and now of the alignment, what is the name of his? Integral Alignment. It's a beautiful new work he's doing. And Terry Patton is the first group workshop that is going to be next weekend. Please join us and tune in. Also, tomorrow night on A Better World TV is Dr. Batman Gelage talking about his book, The Many Cries for Water. Thank you again, and I'll see you all next week.